Hello, Nari McDiarmid for miningnews.net, and it's great to speak with Scott Caithness, Managing Director of Critical Minerals focused Alderan Resources. Now, Scott, you've got the Frisco copper gold project in Utah and earlier stage lithium assets in Brazil. Let's start with Frisco. What's the appeal there?
I'll start, Murray, with just a little bit of history of Frisco. So Frisco was an old copper gold mining district in Utah, in USA, so a very good mining state. It produced around about, well, the Cactus area, which we're focused on, produced around about 1.3 million tonnes at a copper grade of about 2% from the late 1800s through to about 1920. There was a little bit of intermittent mining post 1920 through to about 1957, but most of that was tailings and waste dump materials. So basically mining finished in 1920. But what we did we've basically got a new model for the project, and we've collected some new data. The new data is that we've gone back to the old Cactus mine, and right next door to it there's also the Comet mine, which were historical mines. One was dominantly a copper producer, and one was dominantly a gold producer. And we 3D modelled those using a leapfrog package. So what that modelling has done is, first of all, it's confirmed pretty much what was said to be the mine tonnage in the old days. Obviously, we don't know the grade of that, but what we found is that we believe that there's potential for incremental ore around the margins of those deposits. So this modelling is done with quite a number of drill holes that have been done post mining, where there's some very good intersections. There's intersections of 5 metres at nearly 7% copper, sitting within 40 metres at 1.7% copper. There's a number of 5 to 10 metre intercepts of grading greater than 3%, 2%, and they're generally sitting within much longer intercepts that are grading ballpark 1.5% copper. Some of them with a gold credit. So the recent drilling that's been done, relatively recent, has gold assays, and there's a gold credit with that as well that can go about 0.2, 0.3 grams per tonne. So with the modelling that we've done, we've used all that old drilling data, and we believe that there's potential for the deposits to be significantly larger than what was mined in the past. So we think that a lot more mineralisation has been left behind than what was mined in the past. We also think that the deposits are both open at depth. So that modelling was very important for us because it also extended up a little bit further along this northwest trending corridor that they both sit within, which is a structure, to the New Year's prospect. And when we went back and had a look at the old data on New Year's, there's about, I think it's about 10 drill holes into New Year's, historical drill holes. We found that quite a number of those drill holes had mineralisation, and 3 drill holes that were said to have been drilled at New Year's had significant intercepts. So the best of those was about 13 to 14 metres at 2.3% copper, sitting within about 27, 28 metres at about 0.8 from surface. And then there was another hole that was drilled actually midway between Cactus and New Year's, which was actually drilled by Newmont in 2002, and that intersected 42.7 metres at 0.8 from surface, which included 2 zones, one of 10.7 at 1.5, and another one of 4 metres, nearly 5 metres at 1.3, and that was said to all be oxide. And the entire hole was mineralised. The hole was drilled only to 42 metres, and the entire hole was mineralised. So the modelling highlighted the New Year's target as being something that hadn't been touched. The actual New Year's drilling itself hasn't been drilled since the 1960s, early 1960s. So the second piece of work we did was the project had been farmed out to Rio Tinto for the last 4 years, and they were looking for large-scale porphyry coppers. So these smaller tonnage but higher grade breccia style deposits that we're looking at were not a target for Rio Tinto. That said, they did drill one hole into Cactus, and they intersected 42 metres at 1.9% copper and 0.6 grams per tonne gold within a 70-metre intercept of 1%. 1.1% copper with a gold credit. So they actually drilled one of the best, actually, in terms of lengths, intersections into these breccias. But Rio flew over the larger Frisco project area. They threw a drone magnetic survey. So high quality drone magnetics looking for large scale porphyries. We've gone back and we've remodeled that data, 3D modeled that data, with a view to getting a model for the known deposits, so for the comet and cactus deposits, and seeing if there are other targets that look like cactus and comet in the magnetics. So the first thing we found was that both cactus and comet stand out as very discrete magnetic low anomalies, which sort of goes with the model of alteration around a breccia pipe coming through. And comet itself is quite a small, discrete magnetic anomaly. Cactus is twice the size of comet, and it's only about 300 meters away from the comet deposit. And then you go to New Year's, and New Year's is twice the size as a magnetic anomaly of the cactus deposit. So New Year's is basically a target that we're very focused on at the moment. It's got historical high-grade copper drill intersections. It's got pretty much the same magnetic signature as two known deposits that lie literally only 500 meters away along the same structural corridor. And it hasn't had any exploration done on it since the 1960s. So we're very excited about the New Year's target. But the other thing that came out of the magnetics is we have 12 other targets that look very, very similar to cactus and comet that haven't had any exploration done on them. So we've sort of got a district of targets. New Year's is the first one. And we're doing some work on that at the moment in terms of we're doing soil geochemistry over it to see if we can get a soil geochemical response, anomalous in copper over that particular target, because then we can use those soils, if that works effectively, we can use those soils to prioritise and rank the other targets that we've got as well. And we're basically in the stage where we're finalising preparation for a drilling program. So permitting is underway at the moment. There are old holes that have been permitted there in the past, so we're actually looking at modifying an existing permit rather than permitting from scratch. So that should be a shorter process for us as well. So we're aiming to be in a position to start drilling sort of towards the end of June this year. So we would expect we would be drilling either late June, early July this year. So only about a month and a half away.
Well, there's plenty to keep you busy there at Frisco, Scott. But if we turn our attention to Brazil, where you've got 7 lithium projects now, what's the attraction there?
Look, Brazil, we think is a really good jurisdiction. Obviously, it's a mining country as a whole. Very successful in its mining industry. The state that we're in is Minas Gerais, which is I think the second largest mining state within the country. So it's again got a mining culture, which is great. It's got great infrastructure. It's also the primary state for lithium production in Brazil. So there are 2 lithium mines that have been operating for quite a number of years in the state. One owned by CBL Corporation, the other one by AMG. And just recently, Sigma Lithium has developed its project in Brazil, which is a world scale project. They're ramping up to 250,000 tonnes of lithium concentrate per annum, and then moving to stage 2. So preparing for that at the moment, which I think will nearly double their production. And then there's a number of other companies that have got resources that have just been are in the process of being delineated. So they've got resource estimates, which includes Latin Resources out of Australia. There's Lithium Ionic out of Canada, Atlas Resources out of the US. So we're in what's referred to as the Lithium Valley. Our projects, they stretch through there. So we believe that the project areas that we've got there, they've got the right geological setting. They've got some of the right indicators. for lithium, but they're earlier stage projects. So we've just completed a stream sediment sampling program over all of them, and that's covering 500 square kilometres in 7 project areas. And we're expecting results back. Results are imminent. Look, to be fair, I was expecting them back last week, so I'm expecting them next week. So hopefully we'll have something out with. We'll start to get some of those results out in the next week or so. The results will come in over the course of the next 2 months, because the sampling program took us 2 to 3 months to complete, and we submitted samples as we went through that program. So once we start getting the samples back, we'll expect to have regular updates in terms of the results from that initial work. Once we've got those results, the next step for that is to do follow-up work to narrow down the areas to a prospect scale, and then logically from there, if the results warranted, we'd look at drilling.
Well, Scott, as you mentioned, you're waiting for those results and that will drive progress in Brazil, and you've got imminent drilling plans at Frisco in Utah. What's Alderand aiming to achieve by the end of this year?
Look, obviously, if I start with Frisco, we're obviously aiming to complete that initial drilling program. If we're optimistic about the results, and obviously if the results live up to our expectation, then we would look at that, continuing that drilling program as we go through. We'll also get the soil geochemical results, and that will enable us to prioritise the other targets. We'll do those soils over the other targets that look very, very similar to the known mineralised deposits that we've got, and we'll be able to rank those accordingly. And obviously from that, we may well develop further drill targets as we go forward. So Frisco, we've got quite a lot of work to do. In Brazil, as I mentioned before, that really the main stage now is to get the results back from the stream work, to then follow up any anomalies that we've got. Obviously, the areas that we don't get anomalies from, we'll look at relinquishing those areas and move on. Look, I think the other thing that we'll be focused on in Brazil is trying to look at new project opportunities that are probably a little bit more advanced down the track than where we are now, and seeing what's available. I mean, certainly Brazil is a hot jurisdiction for lithium, also for rare earths. If we can manage to secure some projects that are further down the track than where we are now, that we can fast track to drilling, then we'd certainly be interested in that as well.
A lot on the horizon, Scott. Well, finally, how would you sum up to a potential investor?
Oh, look, I think for Alderand, we're very excited about the Frisco project. So we think that there's great opportunity there. I mean, we're drilling targets that look very, very similar to known historical copper deposits that have got good grades of copper. Some of the things that are particularly encouraging for us too, that we hadn't realised, and I don't think had really been assessed in the past, is that potential for near surface oxide copper as well, which would be a much simpler mining operation and potentially be able to fast track through to production. So we're very, very excited about that. And similarly in Brazil, we think that Brazil is a great opportunity as well. So I think from a company's perspective, we'll have a lot of news flow coming through in the second half of the year as we work our way through the exploration program that I've basically run through with you. So we've got a lot on, and we're very active, and we're optimistic about the results we'll get.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to speak today.
Thanks very much, Nari.